Under the Banner of Heaven, which we talked about the premiere a few weeks back. Now we got the full season. Andrew Garfield starring in this John Krakauer adaptation.
Mm.
And after seeing all 7 episodes, Dave, do you feel like this show lived up to the hype with Garfield at the helm? I mean, I feel like I was pretty excited for this.
Yeah, I think it did. I quite enjoyed this series. It's not the funnest hang at times, but I think we knew that going in when you watch a show that opens with the grisly murder of a young mother and newborn child. Like I thought that was pretty obvious, right? This isn't going to be super fun. Who done it? Mystery solver. It's not like that. I think it's a really intelligent miniseries, though. And I haven't read the Krakauer book, but his reputation precedes it itself, and it's a really, I think, intelligent examination of a very specific world, which would be the very insular community and yet problematic community that is the Mormon faith, and the proximity that traditional Church of Latter-day Saints members have to more fundamentalist Mormons. And it's been very interesting, I think, to read a lot of thoughts and opinions that people that are in or used to be in those worlds themselves have shared about watching the show, and the things that they thought the show did very well and how close to home it might be hitting. I think, like, culturally, I think it's very interesting in that regard. But just as a mini series, as a uh, true crime in a sense miniseries, I think it's also just very compelling. It's not necessarily surprising. I think you can kind of see where it's going, but it's well acted and looks amazing. So tough to poke any holes in it. I thought Garfield, as we said in the beginning, very well cast as someone who's going to be having a crisis of personal faith while going through this professional journey. Like, Garfield definitely lived up to it, and of course, Gil Birmingham is such an awesome foil for him to play off of, as they play two very different characters.
Yeah, I agree. I really love their dynamic. And Garfield, for as much as as I guess I'll speak for myself. I love to see him doing like the goofy stuff sometimes, getting to be outlandish. It's wonderful to see him back as being Peter Parker and being a little bit more lighthearted. He really can play this heavy, like contemplative character so well, and like I can't believe this man doesn't have like more like stress lines in his forehead, because he was stressed throughout this thing, man. Like the whole time, just trying to figure out this murder, dealing with all the different dynamics from this like crazy fundamentalist family and all the brothers there, to the higher ups in the LDS church who were pressuring him, and then obviously the political aspect with the police and the mayor and all that. It was just really, I think, really well done and weaved together really well. And I think there's a lot of really strong performances in this, from some well established actors as well as some up and coming actors. I think one of the criticisms I would have that they did better with as the season went on, we talked about this in the preview, was going back to the like older religious
Joseph
history
Smith,
story.
Brigham Young flashbacks, like the history and genesis of Mormons, basically.
Yeah, that didn't really work for me throughout the series. I think they could have just kind of talked about it like the way that they do more and more as the season goes on. There's less and less flashbacks, but that was probably the one thing that I just did not jive with very much
Yeah.
and I actually found it a bit confusing at times as well. So that would be my one criticism. But I think everything else worked pretty well. Any performances that really stood out to you besides Garfield?
Yeah, and we talked about this in the beginning, and I think his best moments are in the beginning. But Alan Lafferty, performed by Billy Howley,
Mhm.
really stood out to me amongst a cast of a lot of big names, just because I was just really struck with his performance, and it reminded me a lot of Michael Shannon in a really good way. I enjoyed him. You get less of Billy Howley towards the end as Pyrie and Taba, you know, go on their journey to solve this crime, and
Mhm.
Alan's just kind of in the cell for the most part. But I thought his present day scenes, I thought Hallie's performance was really good. Um, But then Wyatt Russell, who I think everyone likes and has been well regarded for some time, yeah, he was really well cast as fucking zealot fanatic type. It's very believable.
Yeah.
Um, how'd you feel about Sam Worthington as Ron Lafferty, who we haven't seen him in like super significant, noteworthy roles in a little bit now, but uh, going up against someone like Wyatt Russell and Garfield and Daisy Edgar Jones and Gil Birmingham, definitely, I think, more celebrated actors these days. How'd you feel about Worthington?
Worthington's been on the mind a little bit before this with Avatar coming back, so I was like, huh,
Mm,
it's nice to see him getting
Jake
another
Sully.
look here. Yes. Um, I think he plays it pretty well. It's hard because I think he is playing this kind of like more calculated person that comes unraveled the more and more that you see, and obviously I think all the
Mhm.
brothers become a little bit more unraveled. But Wyatt Russell, pretty much from like episode 2, you can tell is like a little bit off, and
Yeah.
Rory Culkin.
Oh yeah.
Uh, just kind of goes off the hinges pretty quickly as soon as Wyatt Russell goes down that path as well. And so you see some of these people kind of just getting to go absolutely ham on screen. But Worthington being a little bit more removed, kind of the scorned brother, having a wife who maybe feels a little bit separated from the full on craziness of the family, at least in the beginning of the story. He's a little bit more down the middle, and obviously then you get like the scene in the jail where after Wyatt Russell gets arrested, and he manipulates him into taking on the head of the family role and picking up the cross or however they put it. And that's when you kind of start to see like that crazy look in his eyes. I think Worthington plays that turn pretty well.
Mhm.
Did you like his performance though?
Yeah, I think they put in the time to set up Ron's turn,
Mhm.
that it's believable and that it makes sense. I think if it was a bit more rushed, I think it might have been a bit abrasive, and uh, uh, Worthington's maybe lack of nuance as a performer at times might have been exposed a little bit more. But he fit in well. I think him when he still has all his marbles in the flashback scenes when like the family's all happy and things are going good. It's like really convincing as the put
Mhm.
together older brother, the most successful of the bunch. All
Mhm.
that works. I also thought like in a recurring role, Christopher Heyerdahl as the patriarch Lafferty, Eamon, it's like really really good as this completely fucked up sexist man. Um,
Yeah.
but in general, I think, and you mentioned Rory Culkin as well, and I think nice supporting role. Um, this whole Lafferty group, which is, I think this you have to really buy in, and this has to like work. I think for the series to work,
Mhm.
because uh, at the end of the day, you're portraying like these zealots, these really fucked up, delusional people that are is your window into this really messed up world. And if those performances are like hokey or caricatures or something, then the show's message just won't hit with as much sincerity and seriousness as it should. But thankfully, these performances were up to snuff, so it all works. Um, and they do a really good job too with the writing. I think of
Yeah.
Taba's role in this as a native man, a non-Mormon man, and just how he fits in and around these characters, and also exposing some blatant racism from some of these characters too, and that was common in this world. Like I think they do a great job. I was thankful that Daisy Edgar Jones actually got a bit more to do as the series went on. I was a bit skeptical of seeing that in the beginning, where she's basically dead, and in some flashbacks as the earnest wife character, she actually gets a few scenes towards the end where she gets to act.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I think I wish we got a little bit more Daisy Edgar Jones in this, but I'm glad she continues to be in good stuff. It's a good sign
Mhm.
for her. And you mentioned Gil Birmingham as Detective Bill Taba, and yeah, that moment. I think it's like episode 4, maybe it's 3 or 4, when Garfield's character, Detective Peer, tells the news that he believes that it is fundamentalist LDS people who were connected with this, and uh, Taba comes in and just tells him how proud he is, and I just thought that was like such a nice moment between them and really
Hmm.
like builds their relationship. And there's a lot of sweet moments between them. You really believe in their bond. But there's just so many little moments like that that I think are so thoughtfully done. Like when they're talking to the Lows, and
Yep.
Taba is like, so you just told a woman who was being abused to just try harder, and then he's like, you don't talk to my wife in this household that way. I am the cross bearer, and I just was like, and he just kind of like steps back, is like, Jesus Christ, like, but
Yeah.
I think it's just a really like
Utah still has child protective services.
right. It's honestly the like he is like the uh, audience avatar in a sense in this, you
Hmm.
know. And I think Garfield is too with the emotional weight. Um, but I really thought that I thought that was really done well. And you talked about the writing. I think the one thing that the writing did really impressively in kind of exposing how just like horrible some of these beliefs and practices are is you start the series with this gruesome murder of a child, and that kind of looms over the whole show. And somehow the more that they go into these fundamentalist ideas that are rooted in some really harmful, I guess I'll put it that way, harmful ideas.
Mm.
So talking about like child brides and having
Yeah.
sister wives, things like that. It's just it's amazing that they were able to take you from a child murder that's that gruesome and somehow still make your stomach turn further and further as they
Yeah.
expose more and more of the case. Just really well done, and I think it probably also helps that it comes from a well-known writer like Krakauer, who you just know. I
Right.
haven't read the book, but you know that this is a well-written book.
Well, and a lot of credit is due to Dustin Lance Black for creating this series and adapting the
Yes.
Krakauer book, because Black is also coming from the Mormon world as a former LDS himself, and he knows what he's talking about. He's seen a lot of this up close as a gay man who
Mhm.
was driven to suicidal thoughts during his time in the church, and I really like how the show shows you the negatives of both sides. It does a good job of separating that there are, just Mormon people that just happen to
Mhm.
be a bit more conservative, which is totally fine, more or less. And there's also these fucked up fundamentalist types that are definitely fringe and viewed that way, but they're not as far removed as people like to think they are. They certainly weren't in the past. And there's just a lot of custom and beliefs about things like gender roles and tradition, and of course, more obvious things like race that and sexual orientation that are just not really tolerable. And I think the show handles everything in a really good way, because I think it really builds the things, and the way you have Pyrie and Taba representing two very different figures in this world uh, really take you through, and I think in a meaningful way. I saw some fun theorizing about people on Twitter from people after the show ended. Do you think that Jeb is gonna like stick it out for his kids, because his wife's clearly like still in it, and she basically threatens to leave him for another devout man if he was to not really be Mormon anymore. So, what do you think? Do you think Jeb sticks it out, or can he just not do it anymore?
Oh,
Yeah, tough,
that's
right?
tough. Yeah.
Important to know,
Um,
Jeb is not is a fictional character for the sake of the series, whereas the Laffertys are real, so it's
yeah.
completely fictional. But yeah, do you think Jeb would stick it out?
I think based on the fact that he like postponed the baptism and all that, I think he was already like kind of questioning his faith within LDS,
Oh,
and so
he's questioned it. He
yeah,
doesn't believe it anymore. We know that. But will
right.
he like suck
I
it up for the sake of his marriage and his kids?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that that is the one thing throughout the show is that he really does love his family, and so I think he probably would, but I think he would definitely like put himself at an arm's length, so to speak, or as much of a distance as he can, and still be in the community because, like you said, he is questioned and he's done. So I think so. What do you think, though?
Yeah, I think so. It's the '80s when this is taking place, so I feel like it's not as easy to the fate or to remove yourself and still keep those connections, probably. So yeah, I think he'll probably stick it out with his fingers crossed, basically. But
Brutal.
uh yeah, I think the show does a good job that it's actually interesting thought experiment for a completely fictional character thrust into a otherwise a historical fiction show, so or
Yeah.
historical adaptation. So
It's probably worth noting that Garfield has said that he's going to take a break from performing for a while. So I don't know if he had anything else that was planning to come out, but I think this is the last time we're probably going to see him for a little bit. But I mean, what a run he's been on here uh, to kind of take a little break off of. I think people are definitely going to be wanting him to take a lot of roles, which is great. Just seeing here if he has any movies coming out. Doesn't have
there's nothing
anything on the
currently
docket.
in production, so it does look like he's set up to definitely take off as much time as he wants. Now, whether that means he takes off just a year or a few years, like Michael Fassbender did, who can say? But he's definitely earned it because I think he's had an awesome past few years between this and his movie roles.
100%. So good for him. Take all the time you need. We'll gladly welcome you when you come back. But check out Under the Banner of Heaven. I think a really nice addition to the Hulu library.